Hello viewers and welcome to look at your comments chat, where I go through some of your comments live, read through as many as I can in a reasonable amount of time and give you some frank answers if I can answer those questions or not. And I think personally it's always easier to give you some of those answers in person rather than just with the quick bits of questions online. Sometimes I might appear a bit blunt or might not get my point across in quite the way I would like. So let's go through. We've got some very long comments, so I'm not going to be able to go through all of them. There are 258 comments on this video. We won't get through them all, but I'll do my best. So Mitsumoto, I hope Generations is a good send-off, an amalgamation of everything KT Racing has offered over the past few years, holding the WRC license. I hope so too. They've definitely had some challenges releasing WRC with mixed to good results, but I do overall have a positive view of the direction they were going while they held the license. Amazing steps forward is what I can tell you over the past few years, developing the technology from nowhere. I hope racing identities like the WRC F1 etc. move on from strictly licensing their brand to one sole developer in the future, as bleak as that might be, so that we can get more varied games for certain genres like rally without a single token being judged between a couple of developers every generation or two. Never going to happen. The value of the license is only such if it's an exclusive to a publisher to make it worthwhile because of the cost in making the games. These are very costly to make, way beyond what a lot of gamers realise. It's going to be quite interesting to see how things work, but unfortunately that control will remain. And while Kiloton Racing isn't the most AAA of a studio, I hope they can stay afloat and continue releasing good content after losing the rights to WRC name. I think you're absolutely right. I think it's fair to say that their technology, when you look at where they started, and I'll look at that on a future video, and I'll discuss it with the developers and what they were given, 1 year development. And when you look at competitors, I look at Milestone and Codemasters are two excellent examples. Codemasters have been around for years. They had technology in 2008 that Kiloton are only really getting now. They are 15, 20 years ahead of other studios. So other studios are catching up, but it's very difficult because they're getting better at the same time, and the demands of gamers for perfection is increasing all the time as well. It's very difficult, very frustrating for development teams to grow right now. The same thing happened with Milestone. Their technology 6, 7, 8 years, 9 years ago, 10 years ago wasn't where it is today. But if you looked at WRC to WRC 3 and 4, by the time they lost the license, people were really enjoying their WRC games, but they never gave them the time. Unfortunately, it takes years and years to build that technology. Now, if you look at where Milestone are, their technology is at a whole new level. So technology is all the name of the game, and sticking with studios in that sense. And so it's very challenging, but they can get there in the end. And I think with Kiloton now, their focus will be on Test Drive Unlimited, Solar Crown. There's no doubt about that. As for other racing titles, we wait and see. They've got great tech, and I, for one, would love to see them return to Rally in a few years' time with everything that they've learned, but with that next generation leap. And we'll see where they go with that. Martsum looks awesome, can't wait. Going to be a lot of content. Hope the old stages are back. They are. Not sure if that would include Sweden, Finland. No, it won't include the old versions there. It would have been nice to have had them in there just to have stretched it all out a bit. Old Sweden compared to new ones shows how far they've come. It does. The older stages graphically were a bit dull at times, but they were a lot of fun to drive. I enjoyed driving them. They were quite rugged. Even the wide Finland was quite fun, though I really do enjoy the new Finland stages. I've played them a lot. Steve Worrell actually gutted they lost the license. WRC has become really good the last couple of years. Definitely not perfect, but the driving experience has been really nice. Looking forward to Generations. I'm hoping this isn't the last we see from Kiloton and Rally games. Echoing those thoughts again. Let's hope it all comes together. The development team is working very hard on what is a huge product right now. Geth, Android, good to hear the engine sounds are improved. I think this is a big comment here, isn't it? Oh, no, we've got some big ones to come. Good to hear the engine sounds are improved with more character and after how flat and dreary they were in WRC 10. Only thing that is concerning, which is an issue with WRC 10, also in the cars look incredibly sluggish with lots of body roll. I found this really annoying in WRC 10 as you could never really push the stages as the weight transfer was slow. You had to drive very straight lines. I know the cars are heavier this year, but the top tier rally cars in the world should be nimble and change direction aggressively. In WRC 10, I did some stages faster in the WRC class. That's interesting. I've always found the WRC class to be more fun and approachable in the main. I really do enjoy driving the WRC2 class, but then I love speed. I got on okay with WRC 10. The body roll for me felt just right on some of the tarmac sections. I mean, Monte Carlo, you're kind of hanging on. You are sort of tilting the wheel to try keeping that body roll just in the right position while you're just on the limit. There is a lot more body roll this time, a lot more, and that's going to favour some drivers more than others. Some are going to enjoy it, some are not going to enjoy it. I'm going to talk about that in a lot more detail when I do the review, and I'm going to go through the different surfaces and how it affects those surfaces, and the pros and cons. And there are pros and cons to that, so that is something that we will come back to on a future conversation, and I'll note that. Jason Moyer, hopefully all that extra content isn't just for hop lapping and we can do full rallies against the AI bonus stages or create custom calendars so we can mix the countries up. It would be infuriating to have 22 countries or whatever to end up only really racing the game 12, 13 of them competitively in season career. Yeah, we'll wait and see. I mean, obviously you have clubs now, so you can obviously race against people on the clubs. As for the main rally, obviously the career mode will be staunchly set to the 2022 rally, and that's what the focus of the game is around. In a way, we're lucky to have the extra content we have. A lot of this extra content wouldn't have been in the game years ago. Let's put in 5-6 countries which aren't even on the WRC calendar. It wouldn't happen years ago. So we are privileged on the one hand to have that. On the other hand, it is something which it is nice if they can integrate it where possible. So we'll see perhaps challenges, stuff like that. But in terms of racing AI, I don't know yet. I would say my thinking is that it's probably limited somewhat to the core season. Ash Hobson, hello Ash. I've seen Ash streaming before, good stuff, and pops on the stream sometimes. I always appreciate that. Alan, great videos always on your next video. If they've refined stuff from the last game, looks to be in a good place. Can I inquire about the FOV? Will we get more options for adjustment? I've not seen any new options for adjustment, but I will investigate it in the preview. So when you see the preview, you'll see I've gone to the FOV options, and I'll show you those in the preview, as well as all the viewpoints for those that aren't regulars in terms of WRC. But there is a nice selection there as ever. The cockpit cam, the forward cockpit dash cam is much more playable now. They've taken away the windscreen tint out of a lot of the cars. Some still have it, still rears its head now and again, but in the main it's okay, and it's a really nice experience. Nismo, really looking forward to this game. I hope they bring all the cars and stages from previous games generations. It would be a great send-off. Yeah, it seems to all be there at the moment. There's lots of cars and locations and bits to investigate. I've voiced my concerns about the feel of the claw grip at low speeds. This is something to do with the body weight transfer that was referred to earlier, and it seems like it's still not quite there. The cars get more wheel spin than I expect from a rally car on a loose surface. They do get a lot of wheel spin, and the energy deployment is going to be quite interesting to see how players can cope with that now. So yes, that is a key thing. I've been able to enjoy the WRCs even with that quirk, and with the rest of the driving feels stellar anyways, so I'm sure we'll have a good time with Generations. I'm sure you will. I'm showcasing the driving in these Steam videos that have gone up. They're more sort of raw gameplay videos. Get a couple of hours of video recorded and get it on there. Suffice to say, the handling is different. There are changes, and I'll discuss all those in the main preview videos. But you can still get a lot out. You might need to alter your style, your approach, It might be more tricky to get more out of the car and understanding the car, the weight transfer and the energy deployment, but you can still drive it. Though some of my driving has been sort of rather careful in the videos you've seen, just to make it pretty clean rather than completely on the limit. There are a lot more cuts you can take. You can be a lot more aggressive than I've been in these videos. I think I've just wanted to bring the car home within reason. I'm pushing, but at the same time, you know, it's funny, when you're doing a rally, you're not always pushing to the limit. Sometimes you're braking for jumps, you're saving your suspension, trying to keep the car in good condition, as well as trying to be quick. It's a combination of the two things. Sometimes if you're slower, if you take, not slower so much, but if you take more care early in the rally, it will offer dividends in the final stage. And sometimes it can be just half of the final stage where your car starts to really fall apart and you're really struggling, especially if the weather changes. I hope that they make the car's spotlights work. Seems like only standard headlights are lighting up. Yep, we're going to talk a bit about that on a future video as well. And the lights, yep, we'll go into all of that. So I'll show off all of your concerns on a future video. I'll make a note of that actually as well. Information about playable beta. I would say it's unlikely, because that takes the developers away from making the game and working on the beta. It didn't really work last year. The beta wasn't representative, not even close, of the final game. You know, the frame rate was, the optimization wasn't there. We might see a demo, but when the game's released, quite possibly. But I at the moment I've not heard anything, and I would personally prefer the developers to focus 100% of their energy on getting the game right at this stage. There's a lot still to do, and they're still working very hard on it. So we do need to show more of that. It's the same with the car screens. I can't go through all of the cars at the moment because everything is still a work in progress. So lots to see and do there. Rubber Stig, what an outstanding video. Thank you. Thank you. I'm really looking forward to having a crack at the Corsica stages. An ancient guilty pleasure of mine was the Corsica stages in Colin McRae Rally way back when, and I really enjoyed the Japanese stages in previous entries in the franchise. I mentioned in another comment, but I'm really glad the sounds have been upgraded, as they were kind of annoying. Well, it's interesting. There were sounds I quite liked in WRC 9 that they then changed in 10. I didn't think they were as good in 10 in some respects. It's almost like every time you've had a good bit put in, they've taken a bit out. And so we're sort of nearly there all the time. But there is progress all the time, and it is getting more and more realistic. Again, what people don't realise is that recording the sounds and integrating those into the physics, getting it right, is a costly time process that takes years and years. And if you look at the market leaders, which you might say are Race from Racing Experience and Codemasters, are right up there, and they've had, I know the team at Codemasters, I've met the team at Playground Games, big investment, lots of experience, years and years it takes to get the sound right. It's not something like, oh, we can change it, oh, hope they can redo the sounds by launch. No, it's a 5-year, 8-year, 10-year plan to change audio to take it to that level. And even so, when you look at the biggest car games on the market like Gran Turismo, still struggling with some of the cars to get the sound authentic. We've still got a very long way to go in terms of audio, but we're making progress all the time. Great video as always from Chapman 13. Great video as always, Alan. I'm looking forward to more of your videos on this title. Graphics, physics, and especially sounds are looking really good this iteration. I skipped WRC 10. I'll definitely be buying this. Yep, if you skip 10, you didn't play it, there's a lot you have to look forward to in this game. And I did forget a moment ago, Rubber Stig. Bit of Colin McRae. I felt the same way, by the way, and I added a bit of Colin McRae vibe to the second Steam video, which you will see on the channel probably about now, probably by the time this video goes up. A bit of Colin McRae vibe. I did New Zealand. Why did I do New Zealand? Because I remember getting the demo of the game and loving a demo. And then when I got the game, just playing those New Zealand stages, I just loved the way the car handled over those stages. By today's standards, it's all very basic looking, but back then it felt real rugged rally action. And everyone wanted to be Colin McRae. He was such a star, the way he threw the car around. It was incredible. F longer, it looks very good to me. I hope they take time to make available from the beginning the offline championship mode, that is being able to choose a car from the WRC category to compete immediately. I don't know if there is. I don't think I've seen anything like that so far. Also, I wanted to be the hot seat mode that I used in previous titles with friends here at home. Usually one car each, or when we could, depending on how many were playing, we took to each. Would it be that complicated to add these game modes again? I would say that something that probably added a complication might have been the targeting of cross-play. And it might also come down to how many people used a particular mode to see whether it's worth bringing that mode back or using the resource in developing something new. And a lot of the work's gone into developing the league mode. It's the same with the single rally. You need to go into clubs mode and create your rally there, even if it's one player. You just set it up there. But I will show all of that on a video, and I'll come back to some of this stuff and make a note of it as well, and come back to you with clear responses to see if some of the stuff you're looking for is still in there, just hidden away, or if it's just gone. That's that. We'll see. Ben Williams, great vid, Al. Going to be a great send-off for the studio. I think Dirt Rally is great, but ironically, I'd say Cody's have quite a task on their hands to follow on with this series. Let's hope it means the best of both worlds. I think I'll wait till I have a PS5. Never played any of their games at 60 FPS. Absolutely, Ben. Stop now. Get yourself a PlayStation 5. 60 FPS is the only way to go on these games. You will notice night and day difference between WRC Generations on a PS4 and PS5. There's literally night and I can't do it. I've played the other games on PS4, and when I went to PC, PS5, Xbox Series X, it just transforms it at 60 FPS. Hang in there, and it will be absolutely worth it. Beam, it looks like this will be my next WRC Rally Evolved. I do hope it is way more polished and runs a lot better than WRC 10. Physics was great in WRC 10, but the force feedback needs a lot of work. Richard Burns' Rally on NGP 7 is the best example of how it should feel. Also, the way dirt builds up on the car is too unrealistic, and immersion braking, I can't say I noticed that. I'm driving the car, so I'm not really looking at the car, and the dirt build up doesn't seem too bad to me. Might be something I'm missing. Too much dirt at the front of the car. I can't honestly say that when I'm rallying I really notice that. Water splashes and digging the front end of the car, and the dirt should also spray water. Yeah, so what you're talking about there is a very complex amount of work and graphical stuff happening on the screen. That creates a lot of slowdown. So when you're converting to Xbox One or Switch or PS4, that's probably what's holding all that back. You'll likely see that when you see next generation games. So had this game continued to the next gen, you would have seen that eventually, but you're not going to see much more detail in that way than we've currently got, or it would have meant a reduction in frame rates and resolution and lots of other cutbacks for the console versions. Do remember that the Xbox One and PS4 have always been the dominant markets. So unfortunately, there are some things that got to go. But I agree. I agree with we look at the rain sloshing across the screen, stuff like that on Drive Club years ago. But it shows how far ahead Sony's in-house technology was. It is years ahead of third-party developers, and they get given way more information, support in making those games. So the dust clouds going off-road, so all these things, particle effects, they just slow the game down. But it is something that you will likely see great improvement on in the next gen. I don't know if the WRC next year from Codemasters is going, and EA is going to, or I should just say EA, it's EA Rally. I don't know if it's going to be next gen only or focus purely on the next gen. One hopes it does, because otherwise it's going to get held back. And again, you won't see those elements if it gets held back. But if it's really going to push the next gen, we might see that. Bob, hello Bob Jenkins, long time. There he is, member there, 2 years and 4 months. Always appreciate the support of Bob. He's the first person to support the channel, the first person to buy me a beer on Christmas Eve. I'll never forget it. First donator to the channel, and I always appreciate your support, Bob. Thick and thin, always there. I do enjoy your uploads to stream, mate. Stay safe, Mr. VVV. Always appreciate your support. Good man. And to all the members of the channel, this channel you know, it is a struggle. Wouldn't be here without you guys, for sure. Dio Favente, a great video as usual, Alan. A couple of questions, if I may. Is your steering wheel locked at 90 degrees? What is the graphic setting in this video? All right, we're not going through the graphic settings yet because this is a demo build at the moment. I'm going to come back to that later when we have the final game. There's no technical analysis going into this build. My wheel is much more sensitive than usual. That's down to a personal front. So I run a wheel of 360 degrees across all racing games. That's what I'm comfortable with. I like a pointy car. That's how I work. I like a pointy car. Give me a pointy car and I can work with the rear. Give me understeer and I struggle. So I like to have that. I was getting some understeer in the game. So I was, because of the extra weight transfer, so I've reduced my rotation on my wheel, and that's going to make it appear to be a little bit It's going to make it appear less rotation from me on my wheel in the videos, but I will discuss that on a future video when I look at the handling, and we're reviewing the handling as well over different surfaces. Suffice to say, you may need to make your wheel more sensitive than in previous versions, and I think some people will already find that who have had a little hands on. It looks to me you're running the lowest settings. I'm not running the lowest settings, far from it, but what you're seeing is obviously LODs changing. There are LOD changes. It's always a challenge for when you're producing a game that has so much detail in it. It's not like a Formula One track where it's static detail. You've got miles and miles and miles, and so now and again you will have some LOD changes. It is the way it is, unfortunately, but they have worked hard on it, continue to work on it, but you are going to continue to see that probably no matter what your settings. But if they do have a super high, you know, Ninja PC setting, then perhaps you can run some slightly higher quality LODs further into the distance. We'll wait and see on the final game. Altaf 82, also the acceleration deceleration seems either too much power braking or little weight, too much torsional grip. It just doesn't look right, especially during accelerating, as if some jet engine was turned on. When throttling and braking, also stops the car too violently, which looks like some foundations in physics engine as in the previous series. It'd be really nice to see those things either improved or redesigned, since this is going to be the last official game. Now there's some interesting things there. What you're seeing there, let's talk a bit about it. Braking. I've actually found that braking distances are longer this time. They're longer than perhaps probably they even are in real WRC in many respects. The real cars feel a lot more like a video game than the video game does these days. People have a perception of reality. The main thing is that the cars handle within a perceived balance. When it comes to and that perceived balance is whatever you perceive as simulation. So it's a simulation, but what is your perception of that when you're looking at the car, feeling the car, your personal experience of driving a rally car? When it comes to acceleration, I mentioned this before, that it is very much like a turbo car, an enormous turbo power that comes in when the energy deployment comes in. So you accelerate and then it pushes the car with this never-ending torque until your battery runs out, that is. So energy deployment is really important, how you're using that deployment and maximizing it on the stages. It is a different type of style. The cars are much heavier than they were last year. You will find that there are corners that you may have taken flat last year that require a little lift or a little bit of rebalancing the weight transfer a bit in terms of your wheel work, just getting round the corners. Again, it's a different style, not going to be for everybody, but we'll talk about that later. Gavin Naylor, the surroundings sounds are actually quite good. Crashes, suspension bumps and the engine gearbox noise are still pretty poor. I'm cautiously excited for this, mainly because I really want to drive the current WRC cars. Yeah, again, it's a balancing issue. It's a work in progress. I don't think it's ever going to be absolutely perfect. There is always, I find in a lot of games in general, quite a bit of gearbox whine. We don't really have that guttural sound of the engine that comes through as much as I would like sometimes, but there are always improvements being made and some nice spot effects. But it's still a work in progress as I understand it. There's still work being done. Let's wait and see the final sound mix. As I was mentioning earlier about the graphic settings. That's still a work in progress. There's still a pass of optimization to go over the game yet, and once all that optimization's done, we'll see exactly what the final situation is. Daniel Nutley, hello Daniel. Great video, Alan. Thanks for the effort you've put in making this. I've watched the run in Sweden several times. Great epic stage it is. What would you expect from Kiloton Racing? Such a shame. Exactly what you expect from Kiloton Racing. Such a shame this is the last one from the team there. Getting copies for PS4 Pro and PS5. Look after yourself, Daniel. Thank you, Daniel. Appreciate the support, as ever. Sweden, great stage. That was my first ever time running it, and it's the only time I've run it at the moment. Haven't had time to go back to it. It was a long stage. I felt drive conservatively. If, you know, prepare the car for the corners, don't overdo it. The track is very narrow. Rally takes a lot of practice when you're moving from location to location to really dial it in and understand where you can cut, where you can carry speed. There's a lot of practice for the esport players to get into there to understand these stages. They are tricky, they are long, and of course with the different weight to the cars, it's a whole different thing to master, but the stages look great. I was driving along that in the dash cam, and I was, you know, I've looked at some of the real footage as well and thought, wow, we're really getting there now. There's a real feeling of the sides of the track and the detail that's there. It's looking great. And it just shows where we would be going in the next 5 and 10 years in making the stages more and more realistic when you look at where we've come from. Great. MNT Shotix, can't wait for the game to release. Thanks for the awesome preview. Thank you. Sander, looks good. Going to get mine as soon as possible. Great. Champ92, wow, great job by Kiloton. The cars and sound look amazing though. Thanks for sharing your gameplay material. Maybe I'll get mine for PS4, but only maybe this time. Yet again, it's worth thinking about. Love WRC Generations so far. Champ, if you can, get yourself a PS5, get 60 FPS. Get an Xbox Series X, whatever it is. You've got to get 60 FPS on your rally. It's much, much better. Dave Olsen, great video. Appreciate your work. Thank you, Dave. Thank you for the kind words. I always appreciate it. Ken Lawrence, the colours look much better than they were in WRC 10, and that's very important for me. There's getting the filters right on the lighting, getting the balance right at different times of day. So far so good on that, actually. Some really nice lighting effects at different times of day as well. We'll look at more of that on a future video. Is that Verhoefer? Sweden finally looking amazing. Why it took so long in WRC 9 and 10. Better late than never. I think because if you look at it, they made all the stages in WRC 5 and 6, and then basically a lot of those got thrown in the bin. If you look at how long it takes to model a stage, it's an enormous amount of work, and they basically remodeled all the stages in the game while adding new stages. There just isn't the time in general. I think, you know, these guys are producing a new game every year. Games like this really need 2, 3, 4 years of development to make the kind of changes a lot of gamers like yourself may be looking forward to. I mean, the fact they've even managed to build a Sweden like this while redoing all the stages in the game, bringing them all up to the same standard, is epic amounts of work, especially when you compare it to MotoGP or Formula One, which you're lucky to have maybe one new track a year, and that some of the tracks have been in there for many, many years with no changes at all. So, well, next to nothing. You know, they're using old modelled, not in scale circuits, not laser scanned. You know, it's so in terms of what they've achieved with the rally, it's quite outstanding in terms of the new sections every year. So that's why it takes forever. If they had a 3 or 4 year break, they could probably come back with new rallies all over the place and more stages and more, but it just takes years and years on this stuff. Fresh Cerise, I was hesitant about WRC 10, but I'm going to get this one for sure. See, now I actually I really enjoyed WRC 10. I 9 was a pleasant surprise in so many ways. 10 had some elements that I was concerned about, but once I actually got playing it, I really enjoyed it. And Generations basically continues that in terms of the package. If you missed out on 10, there's loads in Generations. But again, I'll talk all about that when I review the game. I'm not reviewing the game yet. I'm talking about what's in the game, and then I'll review it later when we get the final code. and then we can really go into the pros and cons and analyze the things that you guys perhaps you're not going to like, as well as the things you do like, the things you may not like. I'll go through all of that there and answer your questions as well. Aji Rishar, this looks like the first in the WRC series I'll buy. The car models, classic like Subaru, still looks like PS3 era quality. No, it doesn't. If you go and look at your PS3 games, you'll see we're a long way away from the PS3 era, and we have moved on. Just go and take a look at the milestone rally games of 10 years ago. Things have moved on a long way. So in terms of the development, the models are looking really nice, but there is always work to do. Jack Belgrave, I would love for them to add the Citroen DS3 R5. It's my favourite R5 in the whole R5 category. I can have a look, actually. It might be in a DLC pre-order bundle. I'm not entirely certain. There's a Peugeot, I think, in there, but I will check. Viewers. I can't check right now. Tracy Handy, can't wait, ready to pre-order, get in there. Anders, I'll be on it. I'll be rallying it. This is a game I'll play more than most, actually, for the next few months. Anders Fagerstrom, I love WRC 10, but one thing that has always bothered me in rally games is the co-driver's voice, who always sounds directly from the sound booth. I want it to be jumpy and jittery like it would be for real. They should record it in an actual rally car. I think recording an actual rally car is not necessary. They do record these. So what they use when they're recording these co-drivers is violent rigs that they bounce the driver around in. So they record the co-driver voice on a standard bumping level, a really jiggering level, and so on. Occasionally, when you're driving at certain speeds, you're going to hear the different tone. Unfortunately, there is always going to be. It's inevitable. There's nothing you can do about that. But it's just finding that balance, and you get that in all rally games. You will get that different tone when it changes from mild bumps to serious bumpy voice. But they do record that. Recording in an actual rally car wouldn't be practical because you'd be getting the sound of the rally car in there, which you're not actually driving that particular car, so you've got two sounds of rally cars. That's not going to work. So you need to do it in a simulator with a bumpy seat. Suffice to say, like many things, integrating that into where it needs to be into the game with various physics things going on, it's very complex, and it's a lot more complex than just recording it and plonking it into the game. Messer's artwork. So thanks for the detailed video, Alan. It seems the same. CR at P. Only a few 3D objects have been added to the tracks. Sound, handling, physics, previous 3D car models remain the same bugs. Look at the Subaru. The tyre wall is far from the real car dimensions. Kiloton never made a good racing game without tons of bugs and failures, and I bet they never ever do. Right. Now, obviously, Messer's not keen on the game. It's not the same, obviously. We've seen the game utterly transform, as you'll see with the Sweden Rally above me. Lots of new elements in there, miles of new road, whole game redone, new lighting, so that's all just rubbish. As for the Subaru, there are some elements with the tyre that might relate to other licensing issues. This is why when you play Formula 1, there are no classic cars in the game, because it all requires certain elements. Now, wouldn't it be nice to say, I really want the F1 Jordan in the game, and then you say, oh, we can't have that logo on the front of the car, so we won't have the car at all, and that's what happens. Whereas at least they're putting all these cars in the game, they're taking that effort to do that, so you guys can play with the Subaru. All right, it doesn't have the right advertising somewhere on the car, because we couldn't get the license for that, or it doesn't have the right tyre branding, but at least it's in there and they're giving you the opportunity, take it or leave it. And as for yourself, if you're not keen, that's great. There's loads of other games on the market, and what's great, I say to people, is I play everything. I play a bit of all racing games, so for me it doesn't matter if I like one or don't like one. I play them all, and I've enjoyed this, but it's not for you, so that's fine. JT, I just want the ability to do a single rally against AI. If they had nothing else new, I'll be happy with single events. Again, I'll look into that. There is the clubs mode now, and I'll go into that in more detail and just see how that works and whether we can have AI in there as well as... but it should be in there. I agree. It's an event. A single rally event is one that should have been in the game. I've said that for years, but there we go. Jack Belgrave, they should make the inside of the exhaust pipe turn glowing orange. They never had that detail in any other WRC game. It'd be nice, wouldn't it, to have some pops, I think, as the car drives away, you know, and you're lifting off and you get those exhaust pops. I would like that. I think it's a nice little touch to have in there. I'm sure, again, it's one of those things that's not essential, but it's nice to have. Again, there are technical limitations and, oops, as I move my mic, and limitations in development. So, you know, it's difficult to know what the resource development are in the list of things they want to include. I'm sure it's quite substantial. Nick Sartoria, but I agree, it'd be nice to have that in there. Nick Sartoria, Corsica looks really cool, even if some sections are really tight. They are really tight. It's tricky, very tricky. It's tricky to go fast on it because it's also quite bumpy. Shorsh Clooney, welcome back. I'm pretty sure it's a different Corsican stage compared to WRC 8. I think I mean, there are some elements that seem similar and some elements that seem different. So who knows? Bit of mix and match, but certainly the scale of it is much bigger now. Alexander Busov, it looks good, but I want finally some realistic motor sound. PS4 N7 Mixed 1986 looks great. Can't wait to get hands on. Bas von Oster. Yesterday I got a chance to drive the game WRC Oops. Visually the game looks amazing, but from a driving point of view it feels completely off. The VW Polo we were driving felt we're on ice. We drove on dry tarmac, also reacting very slow to your steering movement, also accelerating out of a square corner, stepping out with a rear wheel drive car. I must say, didn't like that at all. Right, absolutely. So let's talk about that. Firstly, I mentioned earlier about the steering and noticing that I needed a smaller wheel rotation this year due to understeer. There is a bit more understeer with the weight. So I think personally, it depends on how they're set up. You know, when you turn up to these stands and they give you 540-degree rotation, for me, I can't drive with that. And if I just sat on a stand and that was my experience, I probably wouldn't play rally games at all. I wouldn't enjoy them. So getting the wheel settings you need really dials a lot of that out. It also helps with the feeling of grip and just various elements as well. When you get that steering just right, it helps with the acceleration. The acceleration is tricky. There is a bit more rear wheel acceleration this year. You will need to be progressive out of the corners. It's a different feel to the game, and again, some are going to like it, some are not going to like it, but I think getting that steering set up is one of the main things to look out for. And we'll go through that again, looking at the physics on a future video. Luke Bradford, buy it on PC day one without a doubt. Thanks for the video. Thanks, Luke. Again, do watch all the content. I will have all the content on here and I will go through it in detail. Nice to see. Where are we actually? I'll just show how long we've been going. We've been going for a while, so we're going to finish off pretty soon. Nice to see the Pneumati Fiesta back. We're a family-friendly channel in the game. By the way, does anyone know why the actual WRC, although I was checking the timetable recently, I swear they never listed the entry. Are those guys just some millionaires that offered to buy WRC Ford Fiesta and drive it, but without being an official timetable? No idea. Can't help you there. Jesus Clemente, great vid. How do you do the cockpit camera where you see the lateral windows and you're included? I've mentioned there in the comments that's a green screen with a replay video in the background that you see on those elements. Fight is $3. Yep, well optimized, smooth running WRC game would be great. Breath not held while hoping. Well, you never know. If you've got a PS5 or you've got an Xbox Series X or a PC, 60 FPS is a winner. There you go. If you haven't, you do need to upgrade to get a bit more grunt. How is the force feedback? Any improvements compared to WRC 10? Again, I'll be talking about that on a final video. I'm waiting for a new version of the game. Go through that in more detail. Francesco Fassi, the game will become, in my opinion, the best game created by WRC. They improved the graphics of some rallies like Sweden, which, for example, was definitely a nightmare to race with all those boulders of snow. Then they added some more features also because now the cars are hybrid, and then I expect the career they've added a lot of new features. In my opinion, from this game, a new era of WRC games begins. Lots of new features. You'll see all of that in my preview, which may or may not be up on the channel when this video goes up. Holy moly, more weight is great. Does that translate to the force feedback? The last games felt so light. Again, I'll talk about that on a future video. I'm still testing that as we speak in terms of high force feedback and low force feedback. Sims Racing, quick question. Any word and explanation why the PC version of the game is coming a month later than the console version? It is a bit strange, isn't it? I say it's strange because normally when it comes to patches, the PC is instant patch, whereas the console you have to wait for some time to get the patches out. I couldn't say at this stage. I don't know what the development process is or what elements they're adding, or whether there was some reasons why the console versions needed to be released sooner. But if I do get a reason, I will let you guys know. But I have no idea myself. But it is strange, and I was quite surprised to see the difference in release date there, which is a bit odd. I hope these bonus locations make an appearance in career mode, rallies rotated from season to season. I couldn't say if there might be shakedowns on the new rallies, but I wouldn't expect it at this stage. Generally, this is an official rally game, and we're kind of lucky to have all these other stages in there. Last few questions now, just to finish off. I'll finish off here with Mark. It's looking good, however, there is improvement with the co-driver. To me, it still needs some work with the immersion factor to kick in. Yeah, you're not going to get a brand new co-driver. There is work being done with the co-driver, though, and just refining it at different times. So it is still a work in progress, but this is the co-driver you'll get. On the bright side, a lot of the calls are on point. You know, and I was driving this Sweden stage for the first ever time, having never done it before, and most of the calls were good. Will Hayden Padden be in this, even though by the time it comes out we've only competed in 3 World Rallies in WRC2? He is, and he's in the second Steam video. That's it for now. Thank you for all of the comments. There are loads and loads and loads. I'm sorry I couldn't go through them all, but I wanted to just make a start. And if you enjoyed this video, I will do more Your Comments Chat videos. And if it doesn't do very well, I won't, and I'll leave it there. But I hope you enjoy it. I'll try to answer as many questions as possible in the upcoming previews. I'll address some of the concerns you have about some elements. Single rally mode, force feedback, handling, really going through the pros and cons and different surfaces and what we can on that, give you guys the feedback you need, especially before you buy the game. Suffice to say though, on paper, game's pretty massive and there's a lot for me to test between now and launch. But lots to come up in the next few days, lots of work for me to do, and I'll do my best at covering it all, making it as transparent as possible. But that's it from me for now. As ever, more soon. Hello viewers, well thanks for watching the video today. Do like and subscribe, it supports what we do. Do become a YouTube member. YouTube Patreon supports all of our content you see on the channel, and of course lots of gaming from retro to modern games. I love it all in terms of racing action. So click on one of the 2 videos just there to find out more.